pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start the meeting, just want to make a comment about public participation. If you have anything to say to the board, you need to sign in over here at the table, and it could be for agenda items or non-agenda items. I want just to remind everybody that you, according to board policy, you have 3 minutes to talk about what you want to talk about. So if you haven't signed up, you want to talk tonight, please sign up. We want to refrain from talking from the audience. We would want you to participate, but again, we want you to sign in, and please do not shout or run up to the podium and start talking without signing in. Thank you. Okay, this evening, under public comment on agenda items, we have Toby McKnight, please.
Good evening. I just wanted to speak in regards to the children getting back to school 5 days a week. I've emailed several times and spoken. But I'm very passionate in the fact that, I think that it's very, very important that we consider getting our students back in school in person 5 days a week as soon as possible. I certainly understand that COVID-19 is very serious. I understand that you all are in charge of considering every possible aspect in regard to the virus. I understand that the virus is, could potentially, affect everybody. Even with the vaccination, it's not going to go away. We all take risks in life. Everybody here took a risk leaving their house to get here. the previous board meeting, I believe somebody said the odds are higher of a child dying from a motor vehicle accident getting to school than dying from COVID-19. Science and facts show that the children are very low risk. I understand that children are interacting with parents and grandparents, and that can spread. However, a lot of kids are being, forced to stay with grandparents or aunts and uncles on the days that they're home, and potentially interacting with people that they wouldn't necessarily have to interact with as much if they were in school 5 days a week. I spoke at the last meeting that my third grader, who has been a straight A student the last several years, has struggled mightily through this. Now, I'll admit my sixth grader has adapted pretty well. She's a little bit more advanced technologically speaking. So for her and the secondary students, I think it's probably a little bit easier of an adjustment. I have no idea how a kindergartner student that doesn't know how to read yet is supposed to navigate through learning how to read, learning their ABCs, learning the 1, 2, 3s via computer. I ask that we consider the fact that, the children, and I understand the health aspects, but the children that missed out on a significant portion of their school year last year, I actually considered holding my children back because they missed, essentially a quarter of 2nd and 5th grade. Very, very important years. My wife and my children, kind of beat me on that vote, but now they're missing out on a quarter of this year. I don't need that. I mean, that's setting these kids back, significantly. I mean, a half of a school year is just crazy to think of what they're missing out on. I feel the teachers are really, really put in a really tough position here. They're not able to see, and many of you have been teachers in the past, that, you're not able to see if a kid's struggling. 2 days a week, they're just not able to interact.
Mr. McKnight, could you please?
Yes. I just ask that you all consider, trying to get these kids back to school 5 days a week as soon as possible. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Vincent Seeds, please.
Thank you very much. I haven't been to many school board meetings across the county in my tenure. The reason I'm here tonight with Bob Shark from FAPEN is I just wanted to make sure I convey how important the K to Z extension is to the county's economic development efforts. We've had numerous municipalities pass the extension. I think this is the final one. I don't think any of them turned it down. And I just wanted to stress that without that incentive program, it's hard for us to be able to compete with other counties, with other states, to bring industry to Fayette County or expand existing industries. It's really an important incentive program as a tool that we can use. This is just an extension of 4 properties that were existing. And if they don't have infrastructure, they go on the tax rolls immediately. I think probably Bob explained that. If they do have infrastructure, then they begin that extension period. I think we have to have these in by Monday in Harrisburg, and it's very important. If we could get this passed tonight, it would really help our efforts in the county. And we certainly want to have sites available for KOZ in Connellsville. We were able to get some in the Albert Gallatin School District and the Laurel Highland School District, our tech park and next to Penn State, and we want to make sure we have these sites down here available to bring industry that would be suitable for the area and have a balance across the county. The best story I can tell you about the KOZ was we got Duke Energy here in Fayette County out in Albert Gallatin School District on 21 many years ago. We were competing for 5 different there were 5 different sites that Duke Energy was looking at that had the right demographics to get to suitable for a power plant, and we were able to get that site in Fayette County because we had about a month to implement the KOZ for that, and that was the incentive that put it over the top, and that was the largest investment in Fayette County history, $450 million. It created 900 construction jobs, and although they didn't get taxes for 10 years, they've benefited from it greatly because it's in place now and on the tax rolls, and it helped the school district a lot and the German Township and Fayette County. I don't know if we can get a home run like that again on any of our KOZ sites, but any industries we can get, I think will more than make up for any lost land revenue that you would get from these in the next 10 years. If we just get one that has a building on it, employees paying wage taxes and have a higher assessment because of bringing an industry here, it would far surpass the ability to just not extend it and get property, just get taxing on raw property. So it's a good investment, it's a good tool for us, and I think we'll be able to do something very good for this area if you would pass it and extend those properties. And just wanted you to consider it. I think it would help the county's efforts a lot in making sure we balance it down here in Connellsville. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anything else to add?
Thanks for having me back again. I'll be brief. I just wanted to follow up on some questions and some items that came up from the last meeting, and I guess an email from the Dunbar Township Tax Office. There were some questions about objects that were showing up on the aerial view of 2 of the parcels that are owned by Mr. Schellenberger in the CIE Park. I went out the next morning, took a look at those sites, took some pictures, forwarded an email to Mr. Bradley with an explanation of what was going on there. Basically, those objects were storage racks that looked like they were holding some prefabricated walls on one of the sites, and the other one there was some, looked like dumpster containers, and there was some earth-moving equipment that was there moving on the far end of the site. So there were no structures per se, buildings that were housing any type of occupants. So both of those activities would still be considered non-revenue generating, so that they still should be considered for KOZ eligibility based on what's going on there. And then with the tax question, I think Mr. Brownfield talked to Mr. DeWitt in detail about some of the issues that were going on in the past there, that things weren't done quite the way they should have been. And I think I tried to explain that when I was here the other night, but that Riddick property should be on the tax rolls going forward on January 1, based on how Mr. Brownfield has interpreted the statute correctly now, we believe, so that any of those properties that don't have development on them, and that was, I think, one of the Redmonds properties and the Riddick property, there's no infrastructure there, they haven't been developed, and because of that, they would be taxable as of January 1, 2021 for that entire 10-year period. So just wanted to clarify those points, and I'm here to answer any other questions going forward. So thanks again for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Justin Kaufman, please.
Okay, I was listening to Mr. McKnight as he spoke, and I'm not going to sit up here and go through that whole spiel again. He touched on the points pretty well. The thing that I think needs to be looked at and considered is you have parents out here working 2 full-time jobs. I work a job that I leave my house at 5 o'clock in the morning. I never know when I'm coming home. My wife is at home with a kindergartner, a first grader, and a third grader, trying to handle everything and teach them. And as Mr. McKnight spoke, is these are very crucial times in their education. So if we're not going to get the kids back to school 5 days a week, even 4 days a week, we need to try to consider some way to help parents that are 2 full-time working parents that work 80 plus hours a week that don't have the proper time to teach their children. And that's just something, if we can't go back to school, that's something that I think that needs to be looked at and considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie, is Katie here? You were on the non-agenda items, and that's fine, but since everybody else talked about back to schools or opening schools, that's your topic also.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Katie Bogdan, and I'm here this evening to speak to you about the children's education, my children's education, along with the other 4,000 plus students in the Connellsville Area School District. After COVID hit, we were all thrown for a loop and had to think quickly and make sacrifices for our health and our children's welfare. I was hoping over the summer that the school district would figure out how to handle this new normal situation. This fall, when school started back, I was very disappointed that Connellsville didn't go back full time. But I understood that you were trying to do what was best for everyone. Well, I can tell you after weeks of the hybrid model, 2 days in school, 3 days at home, it's not best for my family, and it's not best for a lot of families. I even have a petition here with over 650 signatures on it, begging you to let these kids go back to school as much as they can. A couple of the comments that I have on the petition is, if we can go to a restaurant and take our mask off to eat, drink, and socialize, our children should be in school wearing masks and receiving the education they deserve. I have even a student on here that says, I'm a student and cannot learn online. My son is in 4th grade. He's on the computer from 9 o'clock in the morning until 6:30 at night because he cannot learn online. He struggles every single virtual day, and it breaks my heart. I have a kindergartner too. I would sit next to her and click on things and read to her everything that she's trying to learn. How is that fair to my 5-year-old? I understand you guys are trying to do what is best for everybody, but in Fayette County, honestly, there's 815 COVID cases. That's less than 1% of our population. Please explain me why our kids cannot go back to school. If we can go to Walmart and Target and all those other places, why can we not go back to school? It's just crazy. I am teaching 3 school-age children, and I have a 3-year-old running around at home. I work, my husband works, and I know school's not a daycare. I know it's not their job, but parents depend on school. Please, I'm begging you, consider opening up the schools, because all you're doing is hindering our children. And honestly, if parents aren't comfortable sending their kids, they have FOLA to back and virtual school. You can offer those also. But I'm one parent that believes that our children should be in school as much as they can, like they said before. 4 days a week, if not 5. I understand you guys have to do cleaning and do whatever's safe for our children, but you gotta get them back in school. And if you guys want to see the names and the comments that I have a printout for you guys that you can have. And I will keep that petition going because I think it's right for our kids to go back to school. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting that we were in executive session. from 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock to approximately 7. We were talking on health and safety issues and a litigation issue. With that, we'll move to, not litigation, a legal issue, I'm sorry. We're moving to finance, please, Mr. Mongel.
Thank you. Item number 1. Request the approval of resolution number 0826-2020, and I'll give you a little brief explanation of this. This is about the Keystone Opportunity Zone. A resolution extending the term of exemptions, deductions, abatements, and credits for real property, earned income tax, net profits, mercantile and business privilege taxes within a specific geographic area in Fayette designated as a Keystone Opportunity Zone or Keystone Opportunity Improvement Zone in order to foster economic opportunities, stimulate industrial, commercial, residential improvements, and prevent physical and infrastructure deterioration within areas of Conway Area School District, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, upon certain terms and conditions. And this resolution will begin January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2030. And I'd like to spread the rest of this on the minutes. And I so move.
Second. Point of order.
Motion and second, yes.
I believe that was tabled. I have to, we need to bring it off the table first.
So, sir?
You can't make a motion to bring it off the table. At the last meeting, it was approved to be tabled and addressed at this meeting. It would be appropriate to make a motion to bring it off the table.
So Mr. Mongel made a motion and has a second. So you just now.
We could table that.
Bring it off the table.
Bring it off.
My motion right now is to bring it off the table.
Okay, Mr. Mongel has made a motion to bring it off the table. We still have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And the other motion, request the approval of the resolution that I just read, number 0826-2020 as proposed, and I so move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Grinaldo, do you have anything?
Nothing further, thank you.
Mr. Pandrella?
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Brunel? That's all we have, Mr. O'Malley. Thank you.
Thank you. The public comment, the lady already spoke for non-agenda items, so we'll move to the president's report. Request approval to amend the Collinsville Area School District Health and Safety Plan that was submitted to the Pennsylvania Department of Education to implement a blended learning model with 2 choices. I guess I'll read choice 1.
It's all together.
Is all
It's all together. It's just all together.
Okay. Choice 1, students attend 4 days a week face-to-face instruction, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Choice 2, students participate in remote learning using Google Classroom 5 days a week. Wednesdays, all students participate in remote learning using Google Classroom. Implementation to start on October 12th, 2020. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Superintendent Bradley, would you just explain that a little bit, please?
Yeah, basically, we thank all the public for their input. We thank our professional staff for the input that they provided, and also our Department of Health and our county officials that were able to also give us certain guidance on how to be as safe as we can. With that said, this amendment allows all students to come back 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Families that would choose to stay home and learn remote have the option to stay home 5 days a week and participate in our Google Classroom, remain in the role and on the rolls and in the classroom list of their classroom teachers. And all students would be virtual on Wednesday. Another goal of this amendment would be to keep all students and all staff and all families in a virtual mindset in case we ever have to go to full virtual. If that were to happen by a state order or by a local order that we would have to go all virtual, this would keep us all in that virtual mindset at least 1 day a week in case that move had to happen fast and furiously. So with that said, that's the amendment that was written, and it's the amendment that the administration also supports. Thank you. Any questions from the board? I will accept
Yes.
any questions as well.
Any questions?
Question,
Yes.
point of clarification. PA Department of Health and the federal CDC states that in low, the district can have full in-person or hybrid. In moderate, the district can have a hybrid or full remote. I just checked with the superintendent before the meeting began, and I was informed that we are still in moderate. So my question to the solicitor is, if we vote to move to a low educational delivery format without being in the low health and safety designation, what legal ramifications and liability does that vote open this district or the board up to?
So to answer that question, it is pointed out that with the moderate level, for the county, a full, obviously 5 days is not recommended. 4 days continues to be a hybrid model, but any situation where you have more students here present at the school, it does raise the risk of transmission, and therefore there would be a potential liability exposure as a result of that. Now there are different districts that are taking different positions, and there's some question under the statutes about whether the school districts do have protections from those sorts of liabilities, but there is the potential that could create a liability issue for the district, that's certainly.
Any further questions?
The 4 days a week does fall under the moderate, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions?
So if the 4 days a week falls under moderate, then we would not be open for any liability litigation, is that correct?
It would increase, like I said, the liability exposure would be based on the extent that the school district has any sort of obligation to separate students and keep them separately and avoiding any sort of exposure. To the extent that they're bringing students together, somebody could articulate that exposed them unnecessarily, and that would be the basis of any liability. Once again, different school districts have taken different positions, and even different solicitors have taken different positions on that level of liability. In addition, there has been some proposals in the legislature with respect to liability as it relates to school districts, but no action has been taken. Once again, anytime you increase and bring more people together, there is a potential for greater liability exposure, but ultimately, that's a question for the board with respect to what level of exposure they're comfortable with.
Question.
Yes.
Private schools fall under their liability too?
Private schools would also fall under the same liability standards, yes.
I move in Connery not at 5 days a week. I believe they are.
not sure whether that means anybody can sue anybody for a lot of different reasons.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions? All in favor? Opposed? Roll call, please.
I'm going to vote no, not because I don't want the students back. As a 33-and-a-half-year teacher, I know my students are invested in front of me. However, unless we're in low, where we would not be in any ramifications for litigation, at this point on caution, I'm going to say no.
No.
Mr. Lake?
Yes.
Mr. Martre?
No, and the reason I'm going to go with that is because I've been watching this for some time, and I don't see a change in these numbers very much throughout the Commonwealth. There's been a lot of schools that have started out on 5 days, and now they're going all remote because they've had a lot of cable. And I think the only way we're going to beat this is together is to limit that mission of this virus the best we can. And that's one reason why I feel I'm just going to say no at this time. Doesn't mean that these numbers can't change, they do. But right now, the percentages are still going up and up and up. So I'm going to vote no at this time.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Mongeau?
Yes.
Mr. Panzella?
Yes.
Mrs. Saxton?
Yes.
And Mr. O'Malley?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Mr. Bradley, we're going to take a look at this between now and next board meeting also.
Correct.
So we will have a chance to make a change if it's necessary, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I thank the board for, the hours of, just diving into the information and also fielding the calls from concerned teachers, concerned parents, concerned students. Our board is very receptive and they're very attuned to the information that they get, and I appreciate that, and I know that's appreciated by our community, so I know it's not an easy decision, and we will continue to put forth the amendment that the board passed this evening. We'll communicate that to our families, and we'll communicate that to our different staff, and also, again, just to repeat the implementation date, we're looking at October 12th would be our implementation date of the new start of this amended health and safety plan. Thank you.
The only thing is, Mr. Bradley, I know you give the date, but we just want everybody to know it's not going to be this Monday. That date is the following Monday.
Yeah, thanks.
Mr. O'Malley?
Yes.
Just take a second. Maybe it's not my time to speak, but I wanted to say this earlier. I know Mr. McKnight, last meeting when he spoke in this meeting, not really sure if he knows me, but I know his brother, worked a lot of years with him in the medical field. I'm not going to speak for everybody on this board. We listen to you guys, and that's not the whole reason. And I don't know if your brother would agree with me or disagree with me, but I can tell you in all the years that in training and being a paramedic working on the ambulance, and I'm sure Mr. Mongeau understands this, a lot of the times, no matter what your situation was or whatever patient you had or whatever you had, a lot of times what they taught you was universal precaution. That was the main word, that no matter what you dealt with, you were to use universal precautions. They drilled it into your head every time you had a class, every time you took a patient. When we went in to take a patient, you never knew what was going to be wrong. You never knew what you had to do. You went in and spoke to the doctor. You got a little foresight. And the main thing was using the universal precautions. I just want you guys to understand, the public and everybody, this board, that's basically what we did. This is a new thing. This is nothing that we know. It changes constantly. Myself, I would feel terrible maybe 3 years or 5 years from now if somebody's son, daughter, an adult, whatever, comes back. We don't know if there's going to be lung problems. We don't know if there's going to be heart problems. We have no idea. I don't want to see anybody on a transplant list, and God forbid, I don't want to see anybody die. So I just want everybody to understand, and I'm not speaking for the whole board, maybe I am. we went through many meetings, many things. It changes constantly. I mean, we have had numerous meetings and everything over this, and we keep getting guidance, and you can see the guidance changes all the time. But I understand you may go out here and God forbid there's an accident, but you know, when you send your kids here, you know, we're responsible. I understand you don't go to Walmart with you and take them there, but when they're here, we are responsible. And that's what we did, and that's why we're taking the steps, hopefully, you know, baby steps or whatever they are, but you know, it's caution all the time, and that's why we did what we did. And you know, it could change again, but I just wanted to put that out there so the public understands, you know, that's why we did this, and at least that's why I did it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said, Mr. Panzella. And I'll add to that. I've said it before. It is a fluid situation. It changes daily, sometimes hourly. And what is very disappointing is every state is doing their own thing. The federal government does one thing, brings some guidelines out. States change their guidelines. It even changes from county to county. And it makes it very difficult to try to figure out what the right thing is to do. And as Mr. Panzella said, everybody on the board is very concerned about the students, not just students, the staff. Everybody in this building are very concerned about their health and safety. And we just hope that in the long run, we're doing the right thing. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Thank you.